So when you're ready then, Max,
Oh, yeah,
you got to pick up the magic stick. October Red Boxing here in Acox Green Boxing Gym with the marvellous, the wonderful, the one and only, I don't have favourites, but Max McCracken.
All right, Abby, how are you?
All right, more or less, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, good. Just glad to get Matt's debut out of the way and on to the next one.
Talking about Matty Harris then, he had his debut last week, the 25th of November, an intimate show at the York Hall, an iconic building for boxing. Talk to us a little bit about the lead up to that, and obviously it's you manage Matty. It's his first fight. How do you think it went?
I think it went well. He enjoyed it, every minute of it he enjoyed. Got down there on the Tuesday, settled into the hotel. He was out walking each day. The weigh-in was the next day, and he enjoyed everything. He was good around the cameras and that. Took it all in well, and I thought he performed well. It was a good debut. And with Manev, we know a little bit about Manev, and he's no pushover. So it was a decent fight for his first fight. Thought he performed quite well. Got behind the jab. I think he hurt Manev a couple of times, and Manev was competitive at times. So he had to be switched on.
Yeah, speaking of Manev, like you said, stranger, because your other fighter, Solomon Dacres, who you train, also had Manev as a debut. So going back into it, was it a little bit like deja vu, seeing Manev walk to the ring again, but this time it's, with a fighter that you're managed, but yet again, another debut?
Yeah, I seen Manev there and he sort of looked twice at me. And he dawned on who it was, but he's a good journeyman, Manev. He's a good amateur, that wasn't he? Won a bronze at the Europeans, and I think it was a long time ago. But he knows what he's doing in there, so it wasn't a walkover from that. But it's the type of test he needs to get the best out of him. So he knows what it's all about now, Matt does, and we're looking to get him back out in January. Nice
one. That's a nice, quick little turnover for him. We talk about obviously Manev not being a pushover. You looking at Matt, you've semi-trained him yourself. Okay, he's trained at Cleary's gym, he's trained by Edwin as the main trainer, but you've done bits with Matt as well. So how would you rate his performance then, his debut performance?
I thought he performed well. I thought he took it in well. I thought the ring walk was really good. He got the crowd going. I thought the crowd liked him. I think he's going to be an exciting addition to the heavyweights. But he's got a long way to go. There's going to be tougher tests than Manev along the way. But I think he's suited to pro boxing more than amateur. You look at some of his amateur fights, he's worlds away as a pro now. He's settled in, he really took on board, the entertainment part of the show, and he liked the ring walk, he liked his ring walk music, he danced around the ring, For a kid having his debut, he didn't really show that many nerves, he was quite confident.
And then I agree with you, he's definitely a confident fighter. I spoke to him after and he said he didn't really have the nerves, it was more excitement. Obviously he channeled that energy into the excitement of getting the debut out of the way, because we know that there was previous dates that he was supposed to fight and things fell through. The initial Wasserman date I think was the 4th of September, then we had the 2nd of October, and then obviously the 25th it actually happened. So I think he was just, I don't know, what would you say, just really keen to get in there?
Yeah, it was a long time coming, he's waited a long time for his debut, and I think he was finally just happy just for it to be there, and he sort of took everything in. You could see him looking around the arena, he had to walk around, seeing where he was going, his changing room. I mean, them changing rooms are hectic in York Hall. You got boxers in and out, and you're trying to warm up. So he dealt with all that good as well. So I thought it was a good debut, but there's a lot more to come from him. A lot more to come from him.
Yeah, I think people are quite excited about him because he's got a personality as well. I mean, boxing is boxing, but it's like you have to bring a little bit of personality with it nowadays, especially with like the social media. People want that. Not just someone that can go in and box, not just someone that can go in and knock people out, but somebody that offers a little bit of character with the sport as well. Yeah,
well, he's young, he's 21, and he's excitable at times, which is understandable. He's 21.
That's one word for him.
He's got a big personality, but he's one of those. He likes the entertainment side of boxing, which is good. I mean, sometimes fighters they're really good fighters, but they're not one for the cameras and that. But where Matt is. Yeah. And I think they'll have some fun and games with him along the journey.
So now what's he doing now? I mean, obviously he's had the fight, he performed well, he outboxed Manev. I did see that Manev sort of like gave him a bit of respect after that as well. He sort of like walked over and like shook his hand. Manev is very respectful anyway. Yeah. But what did he say to him?
He just said he's very good, very strong boxer. He doesn't speak great English, does he, Manef? But like, he sort of complimented him, and I think he felt the weight of his shots a few times.
Yeah.
You know, it was a nice compliment from Manef. He's been in with them all, hasn't he? He's been in with all the prospects, you know.
He has, and we saw him a few weeks before on a Dean White card, the November Heist, where he boxed another debutant, and I'd say that.
I think he hurt that kid in that fight.
He did.
He hurt him, and I think the kid was surprised. But Manef seemed to like slack off a little bit in the fight, you know. He was unlucky, really could have got it, Manef. But he was unlucky.
Yeah, he could have been one of them that could have took that kid's prospect one away from him, definitely. So you said Matty's going to be fighting again did you say January?
Yeah, we're hoping to get him on the Eubank Williams bill.
Okay.
That's in Cardiff, isn't it? So that'd be a great slot for him to get on there.
That'll be an absolute scorcher of a card for him to get on and definitely get his face out there.
Yeah, it'd be, you know, if Wasserman, they'll have so many slots on that bill. You know, if there's one from Matt, he'll be on it.
How does that work?
They need a young, exciting heavyweight like him. I mean, they've got a couple. They've got, what's the kid, Steve Robinson.
Oh yes, they have. Yep. From Newcastle.
Yeah, I think they need someone like Matt. He fits the bill perfectly or something like that. You know, exciting young kid. He'll bring like the other side of it. You know, the entertainment side to Sky as well. I mean, Wasserman are pushing hard as well. So like we're all on board with, you know, getting him on that bill. Yeah,
and he's got the footballer. I never remember his name. He's got that footballer.
Akin Fenwar.
Yeah, he's got him.
Fenwar, yeah.
He's got his backing 100% as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he sort of took to Matty, yes. And when we went down to the launch at the Wasserman headquarters, he was chatting away with Matt, and they seemed to get on, and they were having a good laugh and a joke and all that. So I think along the way, he's a Wasserman footballer, isn't he? I think that they'll form a good relationship, which would, you know, they'll be a good duo, good double act, you know, along the way.
Yeah, definitely, because I think he did the commentary and he absolutely loved the vibe that Matty came out with, the walkout, the whole energy that he brought with him to the ring. You know, like you said, it was a small hall show. We had a fighter that had pulled out, Ali Raz had pulled out, but you wouldn't have noticed because the energy from the crowd when he walked in, it just literally lit the room up.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good show. I thought we put a great show on Wasserman. There were some good competitive fights, and there wasn't walkovers. I mean, the other lad that I managed, Saeed Khan, he had a decent opponent, Jack Eubank, which was a good fight. I mean, he dominated one every round, but the kid was in there. The kid was, you know, he made him think at times and was dangerous.
Yeah, he's another good fighter. Yes, of course, you manage him also. You're starting to pick up a few. Are you actually still looking for fighters to manage? Because you've got an eye for them. I will say that you've definitely got an eye for the fighters.
Yeah, they have to be the right kind of people. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, if anything comes up along, you know, that I think is suitable, yeah, I'd have a look at someone, you know.
So yeah, okay, so Matty, hopefully, fingers crossed, if Wasserman say, you know, there's slots on there. I mean, the ultimate decision is going to be down to, obviously, how many fighters, I guess, Sky Sports are putting on there, Boxer are putting on there. But I think Matty stands in good stead to be one of them.
He's got a good chance as anyone, hasn't he? A young heavyweight, you know, he's got a bit of flair about him and all that. And he's a quality fighter. We'll just scratch at the surface with him now. You know, a year, 2 years' time, you'll start seeing him and he starts getting his man strength. That's years off yet. So he's going to be some fighter, Matty's.
So, you know, when you talk about, like, the development of the fighters and we go into, like, the man strength, what I noticed with Matty is he shows, like, good IQ, but he shows, like, IQ in there. So, like, you talk about developing that man strength. Where do you see him actually going with the IQ that he's demonstrated already and then matching that with his strength as he moves forward?
Yeah, I mean, we can't get carried away with him. You know, we've got to remember how old he is. He's 21. We've got to remember how many amateur fights he had. So one thing we have got is time on our side to develop him properly. But, I mean, he'll move at the pace he's going to move at. He's a talented kid. You know, he likes boxing. He can punch. He could go out there and just start putting shots together and get them wiping people out. But he likes to box. He likes the game of boxing. You know, he's got a decent boxing brain. But there's still, like I said, there's a lot more to come from him. You know, I've seen that he's probably at about 30% of his capability when he's finished.
That's interesting to know. So we're going to part Matty then. He's had his little moments of glory. So congratulations on that team effort win. I was there. It was beautiful to watch. I was quite vocal in the crowd, as I usually am anyway. But we're going to move on to a fighter that you train, a heavyweight that's now 3-0. But I'm going to put it over to you. Your thoughts on that match that you had with Camille?
Yeah, people said it was like it's a big step up for him. But I knew, I've seen Simon in the gym with Si every day, day in, day out. I knew that I knew what he could do. I knew how he, what plan we had for Sokolowski, and he just carried it out. And he's a quality fighter, Solly. It's the same with him. You just scratch at the surface with him. He's 3 fights in. He's ranked number 13 in Britain. I haven't seen many move that quick in the rankings. And the rest of the lads above him are all had titles, or they've fought for titles, or they've been around for years. So, like, really with him, we've got to be careful what sort of matches we get him now, because otherwise, if he moves into these, could have one more 8 round and then a 10. He's up there then. There's no turning back. So I think the matchmaking is going to be, important now these next couple of fights.
And that's what I'm saying, because the matchmaking is going to be important, because he's got through Kamil Sokolowski. That, to be fair, thanks to David Adelaide and other prospects that he's taken their one from, Sokolowski is sort of like what I'd call the heavyweight journeyman gatekeeper for prospects, for new fighters.
Definitely. If you're not up to it, or
he's showing you out.
He'll show you, and you know what, and he'll stop you as well. You got to know when to punch with Sokolowski. You start trading with him, he can bang a bit. You got to be careful. You got to punch at the right moments. Use your feet in and out, and show him respect, because if you don't, you'll come unstuck.
So what happens now with Solomon? Like you said, you've got to be careful on the matchmaking. Where does he go? Because really, what other fighters? Like you said, he's 3-0. So fair enough, he could fight a couple more journeymen to get him, get those rounds in, to get that experience in. But what do you think is best for him? Where do you see him going? Because it's tough, because he's sort of like, he's beat someone that is quite good and has got questionable losses.
What he's sort of jumped over the British journeyman class. So there he'd be going backwards fighting them now. I think, if it was me, I'd get a good international opponent in that could maybe take him, 8 rounds, and then I'd fight for an English title in his first 10 rounder.
Okay, so is that how quick you're looking to?
That's how good he is. I think he's ready for an English title with the right opponent. He wants to get moving himself. I'm not saying rushing crazily, but an English title's well in his capabilities of winning, and then he's on the scene then. That should break him into the top 10 in Britain. I'm
just trying to think, is the English title vacant at the moment? Has it been...
Fabio Wardley's got it, hasn't he?
Oh, he has got it, he hasn't vacated it then?
Got it. I think there's talk of him giving it up.
Right, that's where I've got that rumour from then.
So I think if Fabio Wardley give it up, I think Sol's in the perfect position to fight someone for the vacant English title. And someone like, I don't know, maybe it's not big enough for English title yet, someone like David Adelaide, something like that, they're ranked next to each other, 13 and 14.
Yeah.
That's a fight that would, be a good British domestic fight.
And that's what we like. We do like the good British domestic dust-ups. I mean, we can move on to the fights that are coming up in the future. But I spoke with David Adelaide last week on the 20th when he was down at the Boxer Sky Sports Show. And he's of the opinion that he wants to go after people that are a lot further along in their boxing career, that he's not really interested in those that are on the same level.
Well, Solly's further along than him. Sol's ranked higher than him. He's done a better job on Sokolowski than David Adelaide, who arguably, but he lost that fight. So there's a good fight for an English title. If the money's right, of course everything would have to be right. But that's a good fight. These are the sort of fights that people want to see.
But how do we make that happen though? Because Adelaide's with Frank Warren, Solomon's with Eddie Hearn. How do we make fights like that happen? Because those are the fights that we want to see. As a fight fan, I'd love to watch that.
I mean, give them enough money, give them the right money, and it'll happen. Money talks, isn't it? That's a big fight. That's a good fight for DAZN or BT. It's a big fight. So another fight each, and then get in there for the English.
It's interesting because I think Adelaide's had his eyes on Nathan Gorman, who was still waiting to come out.
He wants to be careful around Nathan Gorman. I've seen Nathan Gorman.
I've said he's underrated.
Nathan Gorman's a good fighter. He wants to be careful around Nathan Gorman. I mean, I don't know Adelaide, but I've seen him. But I know a lot about Son and a lot about Nathan Gorman. It might be a bit too far for him.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our fingers crossed then, because a domestic dust-up would be awesome, because we're moving into the Brook Khan next year. A fight that seems to have literally been talked about for like 700 years, and it's finally happening. Even myself, I thought, I don't want to hear about this. But then when I was there at the presser and I saw that there's real needle between them, you can't beat a domestic dust-up. You just can't beat it.
People still want to see that fight. It's not the fight it was. But I mean, it'll still be a big event. It's still a big fight, but it's an interesting one as well. They're both, they've got miles on the clock, both of them, haven't they? They're coming towards the end of the career. But I fancy Colebrook.
I was about to say, who do you think's going to win that?
Yeah, I fancy Colebrook to knock him out.
Why?
I don't know. I just think he'll time him. Be tricky the first 4 or 5 rounds with Khan's speed. I don't think Khan hits hard enough to stop Brook, but I think when Brook starts timing Khan's attacks, I think he'll start landing, and there's only one outcome. I think he'll be stretched, Khan.
Wow, I'm really, really looking forward to that. So back to Solomon. He's obviously had his 3rd fight. When can we expect to see him out again?
He'll be out next year, probably end of February, March. He'll be in an 8-rounder.
Okay, he's pushed up the round. He went 8 rounds with Camille, didn't he?
Yeah, that was his first 8-rounder. So he'll have another 8-rounder, and then after that, be looking for titles, even if it's an Intercontinental title or an English title.
He's got the engine to go the rounds anyway. We saw that. We saw that he could have easily gone up the rounds with Camille. He's not someone that seems to tire in the ring, and he's like a rash. He just stays on his opponent. He just keeps coming forward. A relentless boxer, but with skill. He's
got a high work rate, so when he needs to. He's got a good engine. He's rugged, tough, and he warms into the fights. You'll see the best of him in these long 10 and 12 rounders. How his engine kicks in 6th or 7th round. And for a heavyweight, he can, he's got good output, good punch output.
Absolutely. And you're right about going into the later rounds. He does seem to warm up then, which will cause problems for heavyweights later on in the line. When he's going getting into those championship rounds, those belt rounds, he will cause problems because they'll tire and he won't.
Yeah, he's going to, the knockouts will come with Solomon stoppages in these longer fights. The longer rounds will suit him. And I've seen him in the gym. He sparred Cash Ali's a very good fighter.
Yep.
And he sparred 10 rounds. He's on his first 10 rounder in the gym and done it well. A lot of kids have to build up to it, but he'd done 6, done 8. That was his first 10 rounder, and at the end, his breathing was really good. You could see he could have done more rounds easy.
So when we talk about the heavyweight prospects then, so Solomon should be back out end of February next year. That's good to hear. He's a fighter that we do like to watch. If you're a true boxer, if you appreciate the art of boxing, Solomon Dacres is a fighter that will, get your attention. But we're going to talk about the other heavyweights that are in the division because, Fraser Clark, someone that's coming in off the Olympics, a medalist himself, and now he's coming into the game. From your experience, and obviously your brother being like the head of GB, what happens when the Olympians come out? Because he's slightly older. I'm trying to think if Joel Joyce was a similar age when he came out.
I think Joyce was a little bit older.
Okay. So
I think he was.
What's
Fraser's 30, isn't he?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, it's not that old for an heavyweight, is he? I just think that with Fraser, whoever he goes, what promotional company, it'll be a big launch with him. And I think there'll be a lot of attention on him, and especially as well if he goes with the same promoters with Galal Yaffa, the Olympic champion. I think they'll build them as double act, and they'll be massive then too. They're both class fighters, but Fraser's got a massive future in front of him. He's a good fighter, Fraser.
And he's a fighter.
The fans will take to him. The fans will he's got a nice personality.
Yeah, he is. He's quite warming to people, isn't he? And that's another interesting fight as well because obviously Solomon and Fraser know each other from Team GB. They've sparred together, they've been around each other, they know each other. The possibility is that they could be both going for those title fights as well, coming up against each other. How does that, you know all of them. How does that feel as like a coach when you've had them sparring together and then they're going to go to war together at some point? When do you stop saying to Solomon, you know what? There's no more spars with Fraser because now he's a competitor. Yeah,
if it gets talked up, doesn't it? And there'll be a time if that fight happens. There'll be a time you'll know when it's right for the fight. And like I said, it's money. The money's right for both of them, and it's on the right platform. It's a massive fight that is for the Midlands. Fraser and Sol. Birmingham and Burton-on-Trent. It's like half hour away from each other.
Yeah, it's a derby, isn't it?
That's probably a sellout in Birmingham. That is. If Sol and Fraser fought, that would sell out. You'd probably do 10,000 there, because with a good undercard, it'd be massive. Really, it's a heavyweight fight, isn't it? There's been shows in Birmingham before Calliaf fight. I mean, Calliaf fight sold at 5,000. It's a super flyweight. That's a decent crowd.
Oh, wow.
That's a decent crowd.
Definitely.
So you just got to get a good undercard and a good main event.
Yeah.
And they'll come out.
Max, is there anything else that you want to talk about before I run off into the lovely British weather?
Oh, it's freezing out there. No, that's about it, I think, Abby. And it just to, stay tuned into October Red.
Oh.
Get the views up.
Max is my favourite, by the way.
Doing a great job. You've got some great interviews. And that's it, just keep up the good work.
Yeah. You've got to get me a brother. I've got to speak to Rob. In fact, I'd like a double act with you and Rob together in the same room. I'd love that. That would make my Christmas.
We'll have to sort something out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
October Red Boxing here with the lovely Max McCracken. Until the next time.
Cheers, Abby.
Hi, and thank you for watching October Red Boxing. Like, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications. You can also find us on Instagram at October Red Boxing and on Twitter, October Red UK. And remember, at October Red, we stay ready.